We are once again dealing with this ugly crab for our guild boss. This month it is going to be Kelak, and we are using the high scoring team, which consists of a couple of angels, Light Liz Ludo and Red Tarmiel, and then we have Queen Dian, since we need a giant finish. So we're going to start off by buffing and then dropping a couple of attacks. Tarmiel's buff is pretty good in this since it is 2 buff stacks per unit, and then you get 5 points per buff, so that comes out to a lot of points if you can spam those heavily. You also get points for debuffing Kelak, and he does debuff himself as long as he attacks into the adaptation buff given by Tarmiel. Right there, 10 points for that first stack. It stacks up to 3, then he seals himself, so you do apply a handful of debuffs on top of the ult lock. So, I don't know how many that was, but it was a ton. Turn 2, you're going to want to cleanse. Since he is skill locked, he's not going to be able to debuff for a while. So that should take off about 5 debuffs since you get poisoned across the board, and then he does a single target infect on whoever he feels like it. So that'll be 5 debuffs, and then hopefully you draw another buff, and he comes back around to deal more poison damage, I think, on phase 2, since he's pretty much just going to keep himself sealed away for this rest of the phase entirely. Keeps locking, yep, and the ult is disabled still. So we are just going to try to move some cards around, play some cards, throw some attacks out. Phase 1 really just consists of stalling, and when you can build up close to ult gauge, or full ult gauge, or you can merge into gauge, then that is good. And you also want to stall for, like I mentioned earlier, some cleanses, and more buffs would be nice since you want to stack up Margaret's passive. Not really getting a whole lot of those, but you need to transition, I think, by turn 5. You need kill on turn 8. We're not really seeing the buffs that we want to see. And it's already turn 4, so you could probably hang out for one more turn. You can get hit by the ult, or you can dissolve it with Pulverize. Doesn't really matter, his ult doesn't hit that hard. We're just going to fill up some gauges here. Now, once we transition, we do lose, I think, 3 gauge a unit. So, I mean, topping off now so that we don't have too much to work on once we hit the next phase will be nice. So, we are just going to finish with a Liz ult, and then we're going to lose the Margaret ult on transition, and we could burn it anyways, and then get everyone that's not topped off on their ults topped off, just to keep that gauge high as possible. So that is going to be the 300k mission. We're going to hit phase 2. We did get the cleanse, and we can actually merge into Margaret ults, which is nice. And since we want to finish with Dian, we want to make sure that we can probably kill with her ult, since her ult is also a heal, scaling off of ult level. And then if we're super lucky, we would also finish with a gold Margaret buff, since that does increase basic stats, but that's a lot to ask for in a non-push week, so we're going to leave it as bronze. Call it a day. So that he's finally able to attack without being ult locked, or skill disabled, I should say. We can cleanse again. He doesn't get debuffed anymore, so that's also why we can do it additionally on phase 2. So we'll buff, stack up more Margaret stacks. We're on turn 7, so we need to get Liz ults. And then we will do the cleansing on the next turn, because I think he's dropping a couple extra debuffs, so we'll maximize our cleanse. And then hopefully Dian does enough damage with her ult to kind of heal everybody up. We're not too low now, but he does I think it's a co-destruction attack. He does something that does a lot of damage. Where's the poison? I was going to say infect. Ooh, Dian. She's pretty thick, holding on. So he does do that nice debuff of a defense down, but we have that on everybody, plus a couple poison stacks. So we're going to burn maybe... This puts us at 4 or 5 stacks on Margaret. I forgot to check. But 2 ults with Tarm buff and Marg buff should be enough to kill here on turn 8. Dian, I imagine, from the attack itself, plus the healing factor, is going to put everyone at 2 maximum HP. And now we are watching this pig run because I guess we have a slight hiccup in connection. Ah, sweet, he made it through. Yes, very nice victory pose, Dian. Thanks. That is going to put us at 12k. That's basically 12k. So that is Kelak Hell for the week. If you guys liked it, drop a thumbie, maybe so if you're into that, and I'll see you in the next one.